Okay, so before we make our mise en place or prepare our mise en place for our soup, we're going to create a roux. And a roux is an equal parts fat flour mixture that we use to thicken that soup. We're going to be using today butter and flour in equal amounts, 2 tablespoons of each. And we're going to be putting that over the heat and bringing it to a nice white consistency. We're going to cook out some of that starch a little bit. We don't want a starchy flavor in our soup. So there's a rule of thumb that exists with roux, and that is if you are using a roux to thicken a liquid, that liquid, whether it is hot or is cold, you're going to put the opposite temperature of the roux into it. So let me explain that. So you would put a hot roux in a cold liquid, or you would put a hot liquid into a cold roux. And since we're going to be simmering our broccoli and everything's going to be hot, so when we thicken this, we're going to need a cold roux. So that's why we're doing the roux first. Okay, so I'm going to put this on the heat. I'll show you the process as we go. So I've got it on the heat now. It'll start to smell really nutty. And once I get it started, I want to make sure that I don't go too high. I don't want to get any color on this. Okay, and you could make a roux for a brown sauce, and you'd want color in that one. This one we do not, because the soup is light in color. Okay, so I'm going to continue here. Just keep cooking it out, and I'll just show you that texture. Okay, so you can kind of see that texture, and you can start seeing it turning white on the sides. We want that to be all white. Okay, so we'll take it right back to that. So our roux is ready now. So I'll just show you what that looks like. Okay, so you'll start to see that it has whitened up quite a bit. So when you first put it in, it has this yellow sort of tinge to it, and then you'll start to see it foaming a little bit and getting nice and white, and that's what we want. So I'm going to take that, I'm going to move it to the side. We're not going to need that for a little bit. We're going to move on to preparing, putting our mise en place together for everything that we're going to need for the soup now. Okay, so I've grated my cheese. I've used the large grate on this, okay? Never ever use this one back here. It feels like a little torture device or something. It's kind of really pointy and stuff. Don't use that. Those are for hard cheeses like Romano and Parmigiano Asiago, that sort of thing. Use this larger one here. We want to get nice big chunks, and that's going to melt into our soup at the end. All right, so I'm going to move that aside. The next thing I'm going to do is prepare this. So I warmed up some water, and it's best with boiling water. I've used, I think it's 1 teaspoon per cup, and this is 4 cups. This is 1 liter. Okay, so I've put 4 teaspoons of this. Check on the brand that you're using. It'll say it on the back how much you should really use. So I'm just going to get that mixed up. That's going to be my chicken stock. Ideally, in a perfect world, of course, I would want to use real chicken stock. But like I said, I wanted to show you guys how to use this. Remember, this has salt in it. Okay, so this already has some seasoning for when we actually put the soup together. So we'll want to monitor that and maybe not salt our soup until the end. I've peeled my onion, so now I want to dice it. I'm going to finely dice it. So again, now that we're in isolation, I don't have an immersion blender here at home. I don't even have a large blender here at home. So I'm actually going to cut everything nice and small so that I don't have to blend it. But if you do have a blender at home, you could completely do that. Okay, so an immersion blender is sort of that boat motory looking thing that you sort of stick in. Just be careful with the heat. If you're mixing up a hot soup, the potential to burn yourself is very, very high. Even if you put it into one of those stand sort of mixers, make sure that you get a towel, put it on top, and then pulse blend it so that it doesn't go flying out and burn yourself. Last place you want to be right now is in a hospital. Okay, so let's dice this. Okay, so we've reviewed this before, but remember I keep this end on it because I'm going to dice it, and I've put many, many little slits in here so that I can cut it real fine, but I keep it all attached at the end. That way, I can cut them nice and small. And as I saute them later on, they're almost going to disappear, but I'm going to get all the beautiful flavors that I need out of this onion. Again, this evil little end needs to go into your compost or somewhere other than your soup. Okay, let's do the other side. You can see how many slits are actually going in there. Quite a few. Okay, and again, this evil piece into the compost. All right, I'm going to take this, put this onto my flexible cutting board so that I can put it into the pot nice and easily, because I'm going to move on to my broccoli next. Now, onto the broccoli. I normally don't buy broccoli this way. I usually buy it with the stem. Okay, and that's fine. These were on sale, so I grabbed them this way. If you had frozen, you could use the frozen ones as well. They're not a problem either. Okay, but if I had this on here, I would cut that off and I would peel the outside. They're very, very fibrous. And then I would cut those up. And they're very delicious. I like to do that even if I'm making broccoli for dinner at home. I like to use that stem as well. It's very, very good. Just make sure you take off the outside. It's very, very fibrous. Okay, so just peel it. Here, again, I'm not going to be blending this. I want my stuff to be kind of small. So I'm just going to start from the bottom. And I'm going to keep my florets on the side here, like that. And I want to dice these pieces really small. There's not too much fiber on this one, this high up on the stem. But if they were lower, like I said before, you would peel those first. Okay, so I'm just going to cut those up. Okay, and I want that all sort of nice, small, like that. I'm going to cut that up. And then my florets, okay, so this is what we would consider a floret. This is sort of the size floret that you want in your soup. Okay, just something that's going to fit on the spoon, not going to fall, spill, and make a mess on somebody's clothes. Okay, so really important, make them small. I find that if I just cut from the end where the little stem is, so see the stem, I'm just going to sort of cut this way, and then I get all these nice little green pieces in there like that, and they break up quite nicely. Any ones that are not, just throw another little cut through them like that, like that. Okay, same thing over here. Cut, 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 like that. Okay, and all these florets will all come apart. They'll be really pretty. It'll be good for our soup. Okay, and I'm using 2 full florets here today. Okay, if you had frozen ones, absolutely you could use them. And you might want to just run a knife through them just to get them a little smaller. Okay, I'm going to remove these onto this little flexible board so that I can do my second one. Like that. Like that. Get that out of your way so you can still see. And back to this one. So cut that off like that. A couple little florets that came off with it. I'm going to cut that all nice and thin. Like that. Okay, same thing. Cut them all nice and small. Like that. Move these off to the side. I'm just going to repeat this whole process here. Hang on, I'm going to take a few pieces off here. There we go. Get those going. There, cut that in half, make it easier. And if some pieces are a little too big, just run the knife through them, make them a little bit smaller. Again, we want everything to fit on that spoon, so that part's really important. All right, looks good. Beautiful. Okay, so you could put all this into your saucepan and throw the stock in and just sort of bring it up to the boil. I always like to sort of get those flavors going first, so I'm actually going to start with a little bit of butter. I'm going to saute them a little bit, then I'm going to add my stock, and I'll take you through that process. So I've decided to swap out my saucepan for my stock pot, and just because it was going to be a little bit too close to the top. So give yourself that space, allow yourself to use that. So I'm going to heat this up, and I just want to slowly saute. I just want to sweat out my vegetables, okay? That's all I want to do. So I've got this going. I'm going to put in a little bit of butter. All right, put that in there. Make sure I got butter all the way around here. And then I'm going to start off mainly with my onions first. Okay, so I want to start off with my onions. I'm just going to sort of get them going a little bit before I hit it with the stock. Again, this is the beauty of those flexible cutting boards. You can just throw all this stuff in there, so that's beautiful. There we go. I'll give those a little stir. Now I still have half of my broccoli over here. I'm just going to get this started. I'll throw those in, and then we'll get it in with the stock. Bring that up to the boil. Then we're going to simmer until it's all nicely done. Then we will thicken, and then we'll add our cream and our cheese. The cheese does not go until the absolute end, and you don't want to boil a soup with cheese in it. That cheese will just fall to the bottom, burn, and just be disgusting. Okay, so I'm going to add the rest of it. And this is where you'll see the difference between the hard board and the flexible board. This one's a little bit harder to not make a mess with. Okay, I'm just going to do that. I'm going to get my... There we go. I'm just going to use my knife to get the rest of that in there. Beautiful. Okay, so here's what we're seeing now. You'll start to see some steam sort of rise, and we'll see those greens get a little bit stronger and a little bit brighter, and that's exactly what we want. Okay, and just in the interest of time, I'm going to put my stock in now. I'll give this another little stir, okay, because it was made from a mix, and you'll find that this has a pretty strong flavor, so I'm not going to put any salt in this. If you're doing this at home with no stock, you can make this with water. Okay, you could make this with water and just get the flavors of the vegetables. That's completely fine. Okay, you can do that. And just make sure that you season well. Okay, so if I was doing that with nothing else, then I might add some celery in there as well too. I might want to build up those flavors a little bit. Okay, and then you could use cold water and bring it up. If you're using a stock, you can use a vegetable stock, you can use a chicken stock, veal stock even if you wanted to, pork stock, whatever you want. But these are your options. Yep. So let's put that in there. So now I want to bring that to the boil. Then I'm going to drop it down to a simmer, and I'm going to keep cooking that till all my broccoli is nice and soft. And those flavors are going to go into the stock that's in there as well. So we've got the chicken layer flavor, and then we've got the broccoli coming in there too, and it's all just going to come together quite nicely. Okay, so we'll be back. All right, let's see how we're doing. Okay, so we've reached a boil here. So I'm actually gonna take that down, and I just want to bring it to a simmer. What I'm trying to do here is just cook the stuff out, but I want to cook it. I don't want to cook it for a very long time. I just want to get things going so that they're cooked and ready to. They just still have body and they still have good color. I don't want to cook them for hours. This soup can be made in about 25-30 minutes if you're prepared. In the meantime, while this is going on, I've cleaned up my workstation. Okay, so I've done all that stuff, put all the stuff away. It only took me a few minutes, but you should always get into that habit. I've cleaned, I've sanitized. Just a reminder, you scrape off all the nasty bits, throw those away, wash with soap and water, rinse it, and then after that, sanitize it with a solution. Okay, and then you let it air dry, and we'll be all good with that. All right, so let's continue this, and when we're ready to add the roux, I'll bring you back. So we look to be in pretty good shape. The broccoli's nice and soft now, but we still have nice and bright color. So I'm going to start adding the roux. You may not need all the roux. Some people like their broccoli soups to be really, really thick. Some people like it a little bit thinner. You just do what you like. Roux has to reach, the liquid has to reach a full boil before the full thickening power of the roux is done. So once you get that mixed in there, it's gonna take a minute or two and you'll see it start to thicken right up. So I'm gonna start with a little bit at a time, and then I'll show you what the thickness kind of looks like. All right, so here's the roux, the cold roux. Okay, so remember that rule, hot liquid, cold roux. Okay, if it was a hot roux, it'd have to be a cold liquid to go into it. Otherwise, it doesn't go together very well. So I'm gonna take some of this roux, okay, and I'm going to put it in there, but I'm gonna stir it as quickly as I can. And I wanna break up that roux. Okay, so all those little flour particles will start to thicken up the liquids that are in there. Now, I may need to up my temperature because you'll see that the simmering will stop. So I'm going to use about half of this right now, and we'll just see where we're at with that. If you find that some of the bumps aren't disappearing on you, you can always switch to a whisk. Okay, and then you can just kind of break up any of those little bumps of roux that you see in there. If you get a piece of roux on your spoon, or your family does, it doesn't taste very nice. It's got a very starchy kind of floury flavor to it, and it's not very nice. Okay, so it looks like mine may actually require most of this, most of the roux. Let's check this out. Okay, so that's the thickness I'm dealing with right now. Again, it's reaching a boil, so within the next 30 seconds, I'll have the full thickening power of what's in there. But I think just by seeing this, that I think I'm going to use the rest of the roux. And don't forget that if it's a little bit too thick, that's okay, because we're still going to hit it with a little bit of milk. Okay, so, or cream. So if you've got coffee cream at home, like a 10% or a 5%, that works really, really well. Don't use that flavored stuff with French vanilla and all that, obviously. Okay, but a real cream if you've got that. Otherwise, use milk. And you don't have to use any dairy at all. If you don't want to, you could just thicken it that way. Okay, I'm liking the look of this. This is looking pretty good. I'm going to drop the temperature now. You can kind of see the thickness there. Okay, so my next piece now is going to be getting the milk in there. So I'll take this milk. I'm just using straight milk, but yes, you could use cream or you could use a mixture of the two. I'll throw that in there. Stir that around. And I'm still looking to see if there's any lumps of roux that haven't broken up there. And if there are, then I want to break those up. Okay, and once that milk goes in, I want to bring that back up to the boil again, okay? That's it. Might be a nice time to just check what the flavor levels are. So we're going to go with our 2-spoon method. Take that in there, in here. Not bad, but I think it needs a little bit more salt and pepper. So I'm using white pepper. In a perfect world, if you're using a soup that's light in color, you try to use white pepper. If it's black pepper, it's okay. It just means there'll be little specks. The flavor on white pepper, I find is a little different. I really, really like it. Some say it's a little bit hotter, just in different ways. So I'm going to throw in about, I'd say, a quarter teaspoon, and I'm going to hit it with some salt as well. And that I'm probably going with a teaspoon. Okay, and that's just, make sure you taste it, adjust it, and you're always trying to season it at the end to just get those flavors just right. Okay, so with the milk in it, this is the color that we're getting. I want to bring that back up to the simmer. I'm going to give her another taste, and then I'm going to melt that cheese in. When I do that, I'm taking the heat right off. Okay, I don't want that cheese to fall to the bottom and burn, and then you get no cheese in your soup, and it's just a pan that you have to clean that doesn't have all that beautiful cheese melted through. Okay. So using that 2-spoon method once again, dropping that in there. Yes, very nice. Okay, so very, very tasty now. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my cheese in. I'm going to turn off my heat. And I'm just going to slowly sprinkle it around. Give her a little stir as she goes. You just want that to melt right in there. There we go. Beautiful. I'm going to stir that around. And you'll see that that starts to disappear. Okay, that cheese starts to disappear, and that's what I'm looking for. I just want that to disappear and become part of the sauce, and you start seeing that familiar yellow color. All right, let's serve a bowl of this up. I know you saw this before, but I always think it's important to reiterate how important it is that you're not holding the bowl when you serve them up, okay? That's why I'm going to do it one more time. Get my bowl of soup, okay? See how it drips? If I just touch the surface, once again, the drip stops, and then pour it in. I'm not holding that bowl. I'm trying to stay out of the hospital. Like that. Okay, so that's cheddar broccoli soup. I hope you enjoy. A little extra cheese wouldn't hurt on top, and bacon wouldn't be bad either. So if you had bacon that you chopped up, or even ham would work really, really nice in here. Saute them up, garnish it on the top. Be beautiful. Have a great day. Enjoy.